Good evening and welcome to the Early Career and Rising Educator Roundtable. My name is Cheryl Bost, and I'm a 4th and 5th grade teacher from Baltimore County, proudly serving as the president for the Maryland State Education Association, representing over 76,000 educators across the state. It's my honor to be here with you this evening, and it's also my pleasure to facilitate this virtual roundtable in conjunction with our superintendent, Mohammed, Choudhury, and hear from our early educators and rising educators. I also want to thank Rachel McCusker, who is with us this evening on this call. Rachel is our first ever teacher's position solely on the State Board of Education. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you, Cheryl. I'm really excited to be here as your teacher member of the State Board of Education. I'm so excited to hear what our rising and early educators have to say about what they need, what their challenges are, what their successes have been, so that we can learn from that and find ways to support them and hopefully attract and retain them. We need great teachers. So thank you so much for having me here today. I'm here to listen.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you for being our voice on the State Board. And congratulations on your reelection.
Thank you.
As we celebrate Teacher Appreciation Week, this evening we will hear from early career teachers and rising educators to discuss their experiences in teacher preparation programs and ideas for better supporting the recruitment and retention of early career educators. As the Maryland State Education Association, we recognize the urgency of listening to educators and getting their ideas for how to strengthen the profession. And I know the superintendent does as well, as he's convening these town halls. Your voices must be in the room when and where decisions are made. We also support the implementation and funding for the blueprint. We believe this is key to addressing this issue of recruitment and retention. A key goal is to increase staffing, increase salaries, and these are important pieces to the puzzle. And we must be deliberate about recruiting and retaining educators of color. We must do a better job here through partnerships with HBCUs, targeted recruitment efforts, and making sure educators of color are at the table to discuss how to improve your teaching situation. And as we're facing crippling staffing shortages and the escalating workloads that accompany them, it's critically important that we take action. We listen, but then we take action and get this right. So I am going to now turn it over to, I need to give some rules. You know, the teacher, you have to give some of the logistical rules. Just want to let everybody know who's listening, the State Board of Education and the Maryland State Department of Education are hosting this roundtable in a series of roundtables and other engagement events to hear about your experiences and ideas for the future of education in Maryland. We are using this feedback to guide the development of a multi-year strategic plan that will implement the blueprint for Maryland's future and strengthen the public school systems. We would like to hear from viewers as well and ask you to share your thoughts on public education in Maryland by completing the strategic planning survey at marylandpublicschools.org/survey. We will make sure that link is in the WebEx and YouTube chats for you as well. But here are a few expectations and housekeeping items. We are live streaming this roundtable on YouTube from 6 to 7:30. If you're viewing on the live stream, you can use the chat to ask questions and make comments throughout the evening. We will be sharing those towards the end of the roundtables and using this feedback to inform the planning on the strategic plan. As a reminder, this meeting will be live streamed and recorded, so your participation implies consent to be recorded. When you're not speaking, please stay muted and use the chat function. If we are running short on time and there are additional comments you would like to add, we will try to take as many as we can in the time that we have. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our State Superintendent of Maryland Schools, Superintendent Mohammed Choudhury.
Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate the intro. I love that one of my bosses is a teacher. One of my bosses is a student. One of my bosses is a parent. It is awesome. And I am excited. I still feel new. You guys all have that new glow about you. It's that early career teacher feel. And not saying that it goes away, but there's just a vibe. And so I really thank you guys for being here. Today I was in Montgomery County shadowing a student and at a middle school at Argyle Middle School, and just the things that you guys do every day is just amazing. One of the things in these roundtables I always say is I want you guys to really speak your truth, right? And so make sure you do that. Just across the teacher career spectrum, the early years matter big time, right? It will set in stone on you wanting to continue to be a teacher, reinforce why you got into it. But also what matters is the policy conditions. We need to guarantee, right, strong mentorship. We need to guarantee strong working conditions. We need to guarantee support, right? If you're struggling early on, or if you're really doing awesome out of the gate, and how we can cultivate that leadership. That is right now not a consistent thing across the state. And so I'm really, that's what I obsess about. So as you shared today, as Cheryl facilitates, I might cut in and say, hey, can you tell me a little more? It's just how my mind thinks. So, my policy conditions is one of the big things we do here. And one of the other big things, I've said it in an interview with MSEA, we really need to design a profession where teachers can teach and not be social workers and not be other things as well. I often say this, and I hate to say it like this. My wife doesn't like I say it like this. I was a damn good teacher because I was a damn good social worker. And that's not how it should be because it's not sustainable, right? We should be relying on a system of supports for our kids. You see a student who's hungry, you should be able to refer them versus having to keep a food pantry in your classroom. These are real things. I know the feeling. I taught in South LA for many years. And so with that, please speak your truth. And I'm still new as well. So anything you want to share that I should be focusing on, please do. With that, I will hand it over to our facilitator. Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you, Superintendent Choudhury. And yes, we definitely want you to speak your truth. And as you talked about wanting time to teach, a lot of heads were shaking in these squares. I think everybody agreed with you. All right, now we would like to meet our roundtable participants. I'm going to introduce folks by their first name. And then please give us your role, your year in teaching, your school or district and grade level. First, we have Brittany. Good afternoon, Brittany.
Good afternoon. I'm Brittany. I teach chemistry and earth science in Allegheny County. So I have 9th through 12th grade. And this is my first year as a full-time teacher.
Congratulations. Next, Minnie.
Hi, so my name is Minnie Lashkari Weiss. I'm currently teaching English, and I'm actually still a student in college at the University of Delaware, actually. And I've just become student teaching over the past year at Cecil County, which is actually really, really close to Delaware, like 10 minutes away. And yeah, I'm teaching 9th and 12th grades right now.
I can
Great. Well,
confirm
welcome, Minnie.
it's normal to see Delaware license plates in Cecil County. It weirded me out first, but then I realized, oh, it's right there. So.
Yes.
Great. Well, welcome. Beth.
Good afternoon. My name is Beth Mason. I am a kindergarten teacher at Somerset County Public Schools, and this is my first year as a classroom teacher.
Well, welcome, Beth. Lots of love goes out to kindergarten teachers. I was a 4th and 5th grade teacher. I was like, no way can I do that. Welcome and thank you for what you're doing for our students. Jacob.
Hello, my name's Jacob Bennett. I teach kindergarten in Harford County, Maryland, and it's my 6th year, so my heart still feels like an early career educator, but my hairline disagrees.
Great. Thank you to you and Beth. Andrew.
Hello, my name is Andrew Mcintyre. I teach grades 6th through 8th at Queen Anne's County. I teach instrumental band, and I also teach general music. And this is my 2nd full year teaching.
Great. Jalen. I see you on here, Jalen. Maybe we're having some technical difficulties. I'll come back to you, Jalen. How about Anna?
Hi, my name is Anna Wojciechowski. Right now, I am a senior in the Teacher Academy of Maryland at Eastern Tech. Next year, I'm going to be attending Millersville University of Pennsylvania to study secondary education. And I just finished an internship at a middle school here in Baltimore County. I was teaching, I was assisting a teacher teaching 6th and 8th grade chorus, and also a CALS, so communication and learning support music class.
Great. And Anna, I'll say on behalf of all of us, congratulations as you're graduating.
Thank you.
We're happy to have you in the profession. Up next is Sarah.
Do you want Sarah Speicher?
Oh, I'm sorry, Sarah Speicher.
Sure thing. So my name is Sarah Speicher. I teach special education, gifted education, and reading intervention for Garrett County. And I work with grades 1st through 5th right now. And this is my 2nd year in that position.
Wonderful. And you even had a 2-hour delay recently due to this weird cold weather.
We sure did.
Andre.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andre Trotter. I'm actually a sophomore at the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. I'm an English education major. And I also I'm taking a part of an internship at our local high school that's actually right down the street from the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore. Just very excited to become a teacher and hopefully affect every child's life.
That's awesome, Andre. And at UMES, we want you to stay in the state of Maryland for your teaching. We want you to stay right here. Next is Desmond.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Desmond Hastie. It's my 15th year teaching, but it's my 1st year in Maryland. I teach for the only middle school in Kent County, and I teach computer science, so 6th to 8th grade students.
That's awesome. Where did you come from, Desmond?
Mainly Pennsylvania. I taught instructional technology for a charter school in West Philly for about 10 years. And then I supported Chester County for about a year or 2, and then the school district of Philadelphia for about the same. So.
Great. Well, we're happy to have you here in Maryland.
Thank you.
Next, we have Sarah Morales.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Morales. I am a junior at the Notre Dame of Maryland University. I am an elementary education major. I'm in the 5-year program for my BA MAT, and I have not yet started student teaching. That will be once I start my master's.
Great. Then you'll be in there all day, every day with our little ones. Good for you. Nava?
Hello, everyone. My name is Nava Israel. I am currently a sophomore at the Community College of Baltimore County. My major is English with a concentration in secondary education. And I just finished an internship for a high school in Baltimore County where I helped with English classes from 9th grade standards to 12th grade AP. So I've been all over the place.
Great, good for you. Thank you for coming into our Baltimore County schools too. Next, I have Shanice.
Hello, I'm Shanice Haspidales. I teach kindergarten in Montgomery County Schools. I'm actually from Baltimore County though, and I graduated from Towson University.
Great, we're happy that you stayed in the state. And last but definitely not least, Melissa.
Hi, my name is Melissa Carpenter. I am a 5th grade teacher in Charles County Public Schools. I am on the way out of my early career years, but I am super excited to have gotten to build up the MSEA Early Career Educator Committee and co-chair that for my final year in early career.
Absolutely, lifting up all kinds of early career educators. Thank you, Melissa. Okay, as we transition into our questions, we are looking forward to a rich and robust conversation with you about your experiences. And as you heard from everybody, you have very diverse experiences. We have a lot to discuss in a limited amount of time for all of our participants to share. Each participant chose questions that are most important to them to discuss this evening. So we will be calling on you for those specific questions to make sure everyone is able to share about what is most important to them. If you have ideas you want to add and you weren't called on, please use the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. And to our YouTube live viewers, please share your thoughts on the questions in the chat. All right, so let's get started. Question number 1 is, how and when did you learn about education career options? And what motivated you to become an educator? And what are your innovative ideas for how we can connect more students and or career changers to education career pathways? I'm going to start with you, Minnie.
All right. Hi, everyone again. Okay, so I guess I'll start with what motivated me to become an educator. I became an educator because honestly, growing up, I never, so I guess I'll start here. I'm a multiracial educator. So I'm half Black and I'm half Indian. So growing up, I never had a Black teacher and I never had an Indian teacher. My first Asian educator was actually when I got to the University of Delaware in college. And at that point, I still only had one Asian educator. So I was really motivated to become an educator just to be the sort of representation that I wish I had growing up. I really believe that it's important for students of color to see positive representations of, people that are successful that look like them, and to be able to see that within the school environment, to be able to connect with people who look like you. That was something I really wished I had growing up. And that was really the reason why I became an educator. Going more forward about that, I learned about more career options when I got to my senior year. Sorry, I was reading the chat. When I got to my senior year of college at the University of Delaware, there was an opportunity to student teach at Cecil County, and I took it. I was placed with a Black educator at Cecil County, and I learned so much, just so much information. And I really believe that we can connect more students to education by just providing that sort of representation and connecting with students and letting them know that they can do it as well.
Great, thank you, Minnie, and thank you for coming into Maryland. Before I move on, I just want to check back in with Jalen. Jalen, are you with us? All right, I'll check back again. We're not gonna leave you out there forever. We want to hear your thoughts and viewpoints. All right, next I'll go to Brittany with the same question.
All right. Hello again. I'm going to start out the same way. So the reason I got into teaching, so I was a mom and my son was diagnosed as being on the autism spectrum when he was 4 years old. And I did like a lot of online training and worked with him. I learned how to do floor time therapy with him, did some classes with that and worked with him. And he did amazing. And it was just such a joy to watch him grow. And then he went to pre-K and had the most wonderful teachers I've ever met. And he just thrived, went from barely speaking to one day his teacher said, I actually had to tell him to be quiet in school. I was like, that's great. And I was like, I want to do that. I want to help these kids. I want to make a difference in kids' lives. So that's how I kind of got into it. And initially I thought I'd actually do pre-K because that's what initiated this, but I just love science. So I went and used my chemistry degree. And so I'm teaching chemistry now. But I actually did the MAT since I already had that degree in chemistry. I went back and did the MAT program just a couple years ago during the whole COVID thing. So that was fun. But I feel like as a mom and as like going back in later after I've been out of college for a while, the MAT was the most wonderful program. I was done in a year and could get a job because, you know, it's important to be able to pay those bills. So I feel like getting that information out there about the MAT would be a great way to connect career changers to the education pathway. Let them know that's an option, that you're done in 1 year. And I believe they're actually giving like a stipend now, so that really helps if you need that extra money since you can't really work as much while you're doing school full time. So that's my story.
And I have been to your school. I have shadowed a student there. They have a green screen where students make documentaries and other and just beautiful views of mountains. And
yes, definitely, for sure.
so yes, definitely I got a sense of how different the landscape of Maryland is. I shadowed a really awesome student who Wi-Fi is not strong in her neighborhood, so they use hotspots, something I take for granted at the city. So it was good. I started all of my visits in the West. So, but yes, just an appreciation for the different landscape and the challenges that come with it.
Great. Thank you, Brittany. And thank you for sharing your story. How about Beth?
Hello, everybody, again. I actually, I said this is my first year as a classroom teacher, but I've actually been in education for 20 years. I was a stay-at-home mom with twins who were gonna go to kindergarten, so I became a volunteer. And shortly after becoming a volunteer, the building principal offered me a paraprofessional position. I was a paraprofessional for 19 years. And then as this past year, I completed a second bachelor's degree in elementary education with a concentration in special education and was offered a kindergarten position after much strong encouragement from my building principal and colleagues for many, many years to complete my a degree in education. The tuition reimbursement certainly helped there. And like I said, there was lots and lots of encouragement. As a volunteer, I saw firsthand the impact that teachers and staff have on students. So it actually motivated me to complete that degree.
That's awesome. And perfect example of our grow your own. I know the superintendent is trying to expand on too.
I have to just share a random fact about Somerset because I was so that it was one of my favorite shadows. The teacher was taking attendance and she said Mohammed, and I'm like, oh, she's really getting into it. She's calling me by my first name, so I'm gonna say here. And then she goes, blah blah blah, other kids, Mohammed. I'm like, okay, I already got called on. Mohammed. I was in that class with 4 Mohammeds. And I had never been in a classroom with 4 Mohammeds. I was shadowing a Guatemalan student, just the beautiful Sudanese children. And it's just, you know, I had gone to Worcester before that day, that shadow, and then Somerset, and just, you know, the differences in, you know, just investment with Ocean City and the dependence on state share for equity, and just, it was a great experience. And just, you know, people, I think in the city, right, the equity issues span across the state. And so yes, I had a more deep reason to share, and also the four Mohammeds, of course. It just was a fun experience.
Awesome.
That's fun. And Desmond, thank you for sharing that you want to relate to students that teachers deem unreachable. And that's why you wanted, you know, you got into it and you're motivated. How about Jacob?
Hello. I became a teacher because when I was in 5th grade on my last day, I was crying on the bus on my way home, promising myself that I would be for kids what my teachers in elementary school had been for me. But farther than that, I got into the Teacher Academy of Maryland as a high schooler, which was absolutely incredible. You know, I got to take classes on child development, on curriculum and instruction, and I got internship experiences both in a middle school and elementary school, which was so impactful. I had 6 college credits leaving high school from that. And when I was sitting in my introductory ed courses in college, I was looking around at all these freshmen like, what are you guys doing? I know this stuff already because of all the experience I got from that. But at the same time, when I was in all those TAM classes, I think the biggest class I ever had was like me and 5 other kids. It really struggled to get children in TAM. So my vision on how to expand TAM, because part of it, at least in Harford County, is that you take the parapro assessment at the end of your senior year, is there should be a jobs guarantee. If you graduate from TAM, you can have a job as a paraprofessional in your county that very next fall. And then as soon as that 18-year-old has that paraprofessional job, let's put them on the para to teacher pipeline, pay for their tuition, and in the coming years, they'll have a job as an educator in that county. So we keep them in the county, which we know that our paraprofessionals live closer to schools and they're more racially diverse. And we have a diverse staff that way by ensuring that we remove that roadblock of tuition or moving out of state to get a degree. We keep them local and we keep them in our system without ever leaving. So that's my big vision for how to expand our recruitment.
Jacob, you will be happy to know, as part of our Maryland Leads grant, we had a grow your own strategy. And all 24 LEAs threw in a grow your own, and the models, I said, don't pitch me plans that don't support people with paying down the debt as they achieve their either associates or BA. And if you want to take it to the next level, you guarantee a job. And you should develop a model where if they commit, you can get too close to wiping out debt even further. And so we got proposals like that, both on the TA spectrum, right, as well as students who go on and get a BA and then come back. And so you are right on, paying students while they're, becoming teachers, like it took us a while to get there, but it's catching on like fire. So.
That's awesome. We need them now to fill our shortages. So let's keep moving with that. How about Andrew?
Hey, so I guess I'll begin kind of where everything started for me. I grew up with a very musical family and a very education-oriented family. So upon entering high school, entering the grand hall of the band room, my whole world kind of just totally opened up. So I spent a lot of my time there, just practicing and learning. And fortunate for me, I had an awesome director who is still a mentor to me, and who is more than happy to answer hundreds and probably thousands of questions, whether they be musical or education oriented, or he's more than happy still to this day to help me out. So just being around really strong educators, was something that I knew that I wanted to become someday.
That's great. Thank you. I'm sure Rachel can understand that as a music teacher as well.
Every time he spoke, she had like the biggest smile on her face. I like homed in on her. I could tell.
I'm going to cut in because I was so thrilled. 2 people on the panel today have music, and Anna said that she does choral music, and it just, my heart sang. I went, oh, good, more music people. And Andrew, I had the same kind of experience. I had amazing high school choral teachers that hooked me in and showed me what a joy it was to make a difference in someone else's life. So I am so glad that you were hooked in and want to give that difference pass that difference on to kids in the music rooms, because what you do matters greatly.
Would it be too much of a pun if I said you made her heart sing when you were talking?
I love it.
Sarah Morales, your story.
So I first wanted to become a teacher probably around middle school. Growing up, I loved school. School was my thing. And I always tried to get good grades and do the best I could. And it wasn't exactly the coolest thing to do, according to my classmates. So there was a little bit of bullying that I went through, but it made me realize that I want to be the teacher to inspire the other kids to keep doing what they do and keep loving school and keep doing good in school. Learning about career options. Unfortunately, through like my high school, we didn't have a TAM program. And I really only learned about options from the other teachers in my life. And I don't hear much about career options from my School of Education at Notre Dame. And I think a way that we could connect to more students is to just like getting those TAM programs out there and really connecting with the college students to say, hey, these are the opportunities, and just really making the connection so we know what our options are after graduation.
Excellent. Thank you for persevering, Sarah. So next I have Nava.
Hello, everyone. My route to education was anything but traditional. Let me start with my father. My father is an educator for Baltimore County, and he and my mother homeschooled me and my brothers. So I was never in a traditional setting or a traditional school setting. I was able to graduate high school at 16, and I enrolled in college. And looking at how my father, I'm skipping levels. He always brought me around his schools, and I could see how he taught and how he interacted with the kids. And they always looked to him like he was a superhero. And not only that, he was one of the only Black educators that were there and one of the only Black males. So seeing how the kids loved him and took to him, I knew from a very young age, I wanted to be just like my dad in a school setting. And I think that that's what I've been accomplishing throughout my career so far. I haven't become an official teacher, but I'm an aspiring educator member, and I intern at schools. And I'm trying to recreate everything that I've seen my father do and how he just was such a light. He is a light to the children in his areas.
You're going to be awesome. You already have that smile and that light that your dad has. Going to be an awesome teacher. Anna?
So growing up, I did not have the most stable family life. So going to school was a lot of that stability for me. Especially once I got towards middle school, I had a lot of amazing teachers. I actually went back to my middle school. That's where I did my internship at, with one of the best teachers I have ever had in my life. And he is really the person who put me on to teaching. Even though it's less of a like traditional classroom setting and being in a chorus room, I've had lots of conversations with him about the way that you have to run a chorus classroom as opposed to a regular like core class. But I see the way that he interacts with students, and I see how many students come to him and trust him to he's their person, at school. And he was my person, and it's all I can do to do it for somebody else. As far as bringing more people into teaching as a career, I think that I agree with a lot of what Jacob said, as far as bringing more TAM programs in, expanding the existing programs. Even at schools like Eastern Tech, we have all of these programs that are excellent, but you're sort of confined into one space. And even though I am in TAM, I didn't get to experience the other magnet programs that might have drawn me into a different career path. So I think sort of expanding those programs that already exist would allow for more students to realize that sort of call to them.
What's the number one reason why you want to be a teacher?
I think I know I've always wanted to help people. And I think that the people that have helped me the most in my life have been teachers. They've always been my role models and who I look up to. And so that's who I want to be for future students.
That's amazing. And I love that you love middle school. I'm a middle school person. It takes a special kind of person. Middle school doesn't get the love it needs to. We talk about teacher turnover. You isolated by middle school, it's even more challenging, and especially that are comprehensive middle schools. Those hormones are kicking in. It's a different. It takes a special kind of teacher. I shadowed an 8th grader today. It's just different. And so I love that you love middle school, and your reason for it echoes many teachers. And so there's a purpose, there's a mission. So thank you for sharing that, Anna.
Yes, thank you, Anna. You are going to be somebody's person, like your teacher was your person. Looking forward to you being in our ranks of colleagues. All right, next question. Describe the process of entering the educator workforce, including your teacher preparation program. Any barriers or supports that facilitated your entry into the educator workforce, and your ideas for improvements to better prepare educators to work in a variety of environments with diverse students. So I'm going to start here with Sarah Speicher.
So I began my teacher preparation in high school. The high school that I went to had a childcare class, and my childcare teacher took us out to local daycare centers, and I obviously from Garrett County, so we went to all of them in the tri-state area, it felt like. And she helped us build connections with those people that owned the daycare centers. And then when we graduated, we had those certificates that would allow us to work in a daycare center or be a paraprofessional. So I worked at Sacred Meadow Montessori School for the entire duration of my college career. And if you graduate from a Garrett County school with a 2.5 GPA or higher, you get 2 years free at our local community college. So through my community college, I obviously was attending there for free. I could work at the Montessori school, so I could pay for what I needed to then. And we did internships the whole way through my first 2 years of college. And with that scholarship that you got for free tuition at Garrett College, you got half off at Frostburg State University of the tuition there. And that included books and everything. So my tuition there was way cheaper and very easy for me to afford. I did internships through there in Garrett County and Allegheny County, and I was immediately hired in Allegheny County for Head Start. And I did 2 years in Head Start there. And then in Garrett County, we have collaborative classrooms. So we have pre-K and Head Start in one classroom. And I was hired in Garrett County for a pre-K Head Start position. And the principal there at my building now was absolutely fabulous and encouraged me to apply for special education because that's where my heart is. And I got the job, and I've been there ever since. Some things that I found that went really well for me while entering the workforce is Garrett County has a BEST class for all new hires. And That is a week-long training where they teach you everything. So everything from how to log in to check your pay stubs and your insurance to this is how you enter a grade. This is when your grades are due. Here is your schedule for the year of when you need to do this assessment, this test, and all of those things that aren't super pertinent in your mind then because you're just thinking, how am I going to control 20 tiny humans? But you need those. And then you have this whole folder, and it's a shared Google Drive doc that has all that information that you can go back to after the panic settles a little bit from being a new hire. And during that time, we were introduced to our superintendent and our head of HR, who both gave us their personal cell phone numbers and said, anytime, day or night, if you have a problem, please text or call me. And we were introduced to other levels of administration, and then we were sent off to have lunch with our building level principal and the new hires from our school to help build a cohort and feel that we had a support system behind us. Some barriers that I kind of came into would be praxis tests. There was never a clear guideline of like, you absolutely have to take these 3 and don't pay attention to the other 2. So I had like 5 praxis tests that I never needed. And then there were like 3 that I needed to take. And luckily Garrett County was very lenient with me and let me take those as I went and helped pay for those. But that was a difficult thing for me. And just being able to understand where to go after I was hired and what I needed to do as far as paperwork and keeping my teaching certificate up to where it needed to be and what was expected. A lot of teachers enter with their masters and they think that they don't have to get those extra college credits, when in reality they do. So then that kind of became a bit of a panic for me as well. Like, oh, I do need to take all of these college courses and I need to figure that out. And then during the first year, I was assigned a mentor as well. So my mentor is a person that's at my building and they make sure that they check in on me. And that has been very helpful as well. Another thing that I think will be really helpful for first year teachers would be training on things, especially with everything that's going on right now. Our students have experienced trauma that we've never seen before, and different varying degrees of just exposure to the global pandemic and how their parents have taken that and how they have dealt with that as well. So they, I think training on how to deal with that specific trauma and how to properly reintroduce these students who haven't been in a classroom for 2 years and how to deal with those things that pop up as well. And going to trainings where they don't just define things like bibliotherapy or restorative justice, they sit down and actually model that for you would also be really helpful in retention, so that these new teachers, myself included, we know the definitions of all of these things, but how does it work and when do I do it and what do I do afterwards as well?
Sarah, if you could change the praxis, get rid of the praxis, do an alternative version that tries to get at the intent of the praxis, what would you do?
I think that there has to be kind of a gatekeeper there no matter what, because if you don't have that education or you don't have those things and you don't have the ground knowledge, then maybe the career isn't the best choice. But I would change it because there's just so many different things and there's so many different tests. And it's very stressful. And if we had extend our students the same grace, like we tell them, like, do not, like the cute little donut thing, like, do not stress about the test and don't panic about those things. It's just a screenshot of your life, a screenshot of your day. You know, we should be able to extend that same grace to ourselves. I think doing an exit interview like Frostburg State University does. You do your internship and you compile this gigantic portfolio that has all of these things that you have. If you pass an exit interview like that on a state level, or you're able to submit an online binder of these artifacts of all of these things that you've done, and you're doing an online interview with somebody, so that it's not just a screenshot of one day when you could be running late or you're having a hard day or something happened, but you're still taking this test. To be able to show that you have all of these amazing days in front of you or behind you, and that you can document it in that way. I think that would be much more beneficial rather than a snapshot of what one test can do. And I'm a terrible test taker, so that doesn't help me very much either.
So having a concept of that really assesses teachers' foundational knowledge, but changing the format in which how it is administered versus a kind of high pressure stakes exam versus more of kind of like a performance in a way, like you described. So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate. These are very serious questions, have real implications, and are very hot button issues right now. So I appreciate you sharing at the tangible detail level. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And so we'll go to Melissa.
All right. So I was one of those children who wanted to be a teacher from the time that I sat in kindergarten reading groups on circle time. And I loved it ever since. I did go through a period where I had a friend's parent tell me, well, teachers will never make money and you'll never be successful. And I feel I've done both in the area that I can. So in high school, when we got to pick we did not have a TAM program, but we did have Future Educators of America. So I was able to join that club and meet with other people who were also interested and engaged in becoming teachers. I also had a teacher who ended up breaking and spraining his wrist, an Algebra 2 teacher. And we had a couple months where we had someone who was going to community college to become an English teacher come in and try to teach Algebra 2. It was very difficult for her. But one of the cheerleaders in the class saw that I was doing okay on math, and she sent me to the front board and told me to teach. I say all of this because I 100% believe that teaching is a learned experience. It is not something that you can get from a textbook. And our prep programs need to get teachers into the schools as soon as possible. In my experience, my second semester of college, I was in the schools in a mentorship program. They had partnered us up with students. And although I only had to do my 6 hours for the semester, naturally you get attached to students and you end up going back a whole lot more. I continued with that student until they ended up moving out of the area. So 100% need to get into the classrooms. I also had a wide variety of experiences. At the end of my 4 years, I had been in a Title I school, I'd been in a magnet school, a rural school, an urban school, an inclusion classroom. I had experience on almost every grade level I'm certified in, and every teacher candidate deserves to be able to have that vast amount of experiences. You don't know what it's like in classrooms or schools until you're in those classrooms and schools. And the best way we can build an understanding for how to handle situations is experiencing them. There's no prep that can prepare you for that. I was also encouraged by mentor teachers to come over the hours. They allowed me the opportunity to participate in their classes. It was not just me sitting in the back of the room taking notes. I was a full participant in every single classroom I was in. And I've heard from colleagues that that was not the case for many. And just something, I don't know if we do this, so I'm kind of asking, but are we training mentor teachers and what kind of training is happening? Because that's really something we need to make sure that our teacher candidates are able to fully participate in those experiences.
You also hit another very hot topic right now. There are draft regulations on identifying mentors, and I have conversations with Cheryl and the state board and our HISTEP board, which is made up of educators. And then we have the AIB and the blueprints. I was joking with Cheryl the other day. I was all like, I gotta get them all aligned so we can figure out this great thing. And so part of me thinks like, can I just talk to Melissa and figure this out? And let's just, and then everyone, let's just go along, because you just summarized it in such a simplified way, and just, we overcomplicate it. So I really appreciate you sharing that. Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you, Melissa. And yes, that's one of the things under a mentor, that you allow people to do the things in your classroom. If not, what experience are you giving that person? Next, Desmond. And Desmond, thank you for sharing some of your comments in the chat too.
You're welcome. We're on question 2. Okay. I'm super scripted, but I can go off script if you want. I submitted my thing earlier. So this is from my lens. If everyone, the narrative is it's from my lens of my current position, my first year teaching in Kent County, Maryland, for middle school. So entering the educator workforce was very easy from my perspective. I was told about a teacher education program. I met with my HR director, the prospective college advisor, and then I followed the necessary steps to enroll. There were a few barriers that made it difficult. However, I persevered. I am persevering because I just got here and I just started a teacher certification program. From the backstory, teaching in PA and all of my experience, I got in the teaching field because business just didn't work out and it wasn't my undergrad. So I had an alternative route to teaching in PA, and I'm just going to leave it at that because 15 years later, I'm still not certified. So fast forwarding to Maryland, and I love the clear-cut process that Maryland provides. And I think my county is doing a great job in making it very clear and straightforward. I digress. There were a few barriers. So some of these were like which forms, and this is, I guess, the traditional, I don't want to make an excuse for it, but in my county, there's that kind of like rush to, hey, you're a new teacher, but if you'd like to go to school, we need you to get certified. So there was like a rush and scurry of forms I need to fill out. And I did not like that experience. I'm more of a plan and strategic person. So having the forms I needed to present as well as a good timeline would have been better for me. I did not have that, but I got everything in at an adequate pace, I guess. So that would have been better for me, as well as just the timeline and registration dates, et cetera, because I remember being accepted and enrolling, and then no lie, like a week later, finding out that I could potentially be dropped from classes because I didn't register correctly or something. So it was really odd for that to happen. So ultimately, my idea for improvement would be having this structured deadlines and I guess guidelines of when the application process as well as the acceptance, and I have tuition reimbursement forms to be laid out better by my county. Also, as a few people on the panel have stated, a mentor or like a teacher leader. So a mentor is great, a great idea. My mentor, I think it was just more of a volunteer thing, but a mentor through some type of process would be preferred, or like a teacher leader in that school, more specifically and in the county. I'm a big fan of like an FAQ. So through the collection of teachers and educators that are entering the field and going through the same process that I've been in, because I'm not the first person to go through this, this should be kind of like a guide to help them out. If a mentor teacher can't be on hand or a teacher can't be directly assigned, there should be a system in place so that it's easy to navigate, as well as point people to guide you through. I mean, I'm older than a traditional teacher and I've been teaching for a while, but it's a lot you have to deal with as a first teacher entering, and I would never wish that on anyone getting into the field. Some of my colleagues who started at the same time ended up taking 2 classes and they have their life and then they're teaching. And I'm like, I would never do that. Like, just not me and my experience. So, I mean, I felt bad because my colleague was like, yeah, I'm taking 2 classes. I'm not doing well. I have no time. And I'm like, dude, I know me and I don't do well like that. So I'm a 1 class guy and I'm just going to keep on going. And it's not about the speed for me. It's about like, there's plenty of time given in the state to make your progress and get your certification through this alternative route. So I said, I'm going to use as much of that time as possible, because as an educator, I'm sure everyone knows that you're pulled in so many places. So you have to kind of like say no sometimes, especially when you're starting out. So that consistent mentor, an FAQ or teacher leader would be preferable. That mentor would serve as a guide and liaison to the whole process. And the mentor position, like I said, should be a group of people. That's pretty much it.
Thank you, Desmond. Do you think it's helpful to have that mentor or lead teacher type person at your own school?
Yes, I think it's essential. My county is, I'm at one of the smallest counties in Maryland.
You're in the smallest county.
I understand. All right, I thought so. I don't know the stats, but my county is very small. Only middle school, only one high school. My mentor is at the high school, and it's only 15 minutes away. But it's different. It's just a very different feeling, and I thought it wouldn't impact me that much, but I think it is, and I could have gone through the ropes a lot better if that person was at my school. So
good. Thanks for that feedback. Yeah, your county has the same number of educators as Baltimore County has school buildings. So, so you can see the comparison across the state. Yeah. How about Shanice?
All right, it's my time.
Yes.
So I guess I'll start with the barriers, because I feel like I've gone through a lot of barriers to start my teacher preparation experience. So my family, I am a first generation immigrant. My family is from Trinidad, and I had to put myself through college. I paid for a community college at CCBC Essex. Then I went to Towson University. I took out loans, of course, that was a bit more expensive. And there is, honestly, that's when I really started to take it a lot more serious. Before in high school, I never took myself serious. So I didn't really think because I'm the first to go through college, right? So I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how hard it would be, but in Towson, that really opened my eyes. It was a lot more work and a lot more responsibility. And through Towson, I did my best. So I was able to get the opportunity to go to Capitol Hill with the director of Towson. She's doing early childhood education, the director for that program. I went with NAEYC. There was a event that they had where we advocated for teachers and increasing just salaries, but just the amount of budget that we get for education. And I think that opportunity, my professor suggested for me to go with the director along with 2 other students. And I think that opportunity is really what shook me. And it was right before COVID, it was January 2019, I think, or 2020, I don't know. But that opportunity is really what made me feel hey, I can actually do this. And being in having that collaborative conversation and being in that professional development and things like that really helped me realize that I'm becoming a professional and that this is actually happening, and I started taking it serious. And I feel like that preparation, I think that's something that all interns should get, and that even though we kind of do get it right when we do our internship, and you definitely have to go to those professional developments there, but I'm just saying it was just really good it's kind of like seeing other opportunities besides just being a teacher in education. There's you could do curriculum, or you can, learn how to advocate for other teachers too. And then moving on, something that I think the second part of the question is how we can, what's supported, right? What was working to support my instruction. And I think something that was really, something that a lot of people, no one said it yet, was that I feel like we should have more ESOL classes in our internship, or while we're in college, just so we can be more exposed and be able to reach all students, because especially in Montgomery County, it's a very diverse population. And not just Spanish, there's also French and Asian languages. So I feel like we should kind of have those opportunities for teachers. I'm interested in languages, so I took Spanish and French, and it has helped me so much. My class, I have 8 ESOL students and 8 non-ESOL students. So I think that was able, and people think that I'm fluently speaking Spanish, but I don't. It's just the years that I studied in school. So I think that that's really helpful. And also, I didn't have any Title I experience in my internship. And that's where I'm working now, because that's my choice. I chose to do that because that was that's just what I wanted. That was my goal. But I think that would be great to have a lot more behavior management classes or things like that, and kind of like I don't want to say the lowest, but starting with the hardest kind of behaviors, because I mean, from there, it'll just get easier. So it's like, I think that would best prepare teachers. And yeah.
Lots of great things. I was in Montgomery County today, and I was at Washington Grove Elementary. It's a dual language school, Title I, and more and more having foundational knowledge of what special education ESOL teachers do should really run across the thread for all teachers, whether you're social studies or English or science, because those foundational skills are essentially differentiation done well. My first year, I had 15 IEPs in a classroom of 36 kids. I was in Los Angeles. Let's not talk about why a system creates that scenario, but that was my first year. But my partner teacher, special education teacher, and following those IEPs to a T really contributed to me being a stronger teacher, because those strategies also apply to the general ed population as well in moments. And so you really hit on a very important point. Thank you for sharing that.
And I'm going to add, Shanice, I see a future state board teacher member with advocacy of someone who went to Capitol Hill, or taking my job someday.
That would be great. It was a really good experience. So I'm happy to even be able to share that, because I was mind blown that I was even a part of it. It's kind of just crazy to even be a part of this meeting. So thank you.
That's awesome. Yes, and all of you are using your advocacy voices this evening. Thank you so much. All right, next I'm going to go to Sarah Morales on question 2.
For my teacher prep, it sounds pretty lax to compared to everybody else. So I'm in the 5-year bachelor's and master's at Notre Dame. So I'll do 4 years of my undergrad and then go into a year for my master's. And currently I'm taking a master's class to just accelerate that as well. So my undergrad degree is a liberal arts degree with a focus in education. And that focus in education has only included like 3 or 4 education classes. And I won't get into the classroom until I get into grad school. So when I hear friends who are in education programs at other schools getting into out of state, they're in the classroom in their first and second years of college. And here I am as a junior, never stepping foot in the classroom. I work at Celebrity School. And I work with the school age kids. So luckily I'm getting experience there, but, yeah, like I have no experience in the classroom and I'm going into my senior year, and I just feel like I might be a little bit behind when it comes to teaching. And because my degree is like liberal arts, I feel like I'm not learning so much about the teaching profession and all of those things, and I'm learning about kind of useless stuff.
Sarah, and Melissa are hitting on all the draft regs attentions right now and topics. These regulations are really like right now, there's going to be a major decision made around them. And one of them is placement of student teaching and how long and depth and what types and all of those things. And, how many days should it be? And so you hit on a lot of things. And so, yeah, I just, it's amazing. It's a really hot topic. I mean, you see Cheryl shaking her head because I talked to her about it.
Yes, there were 2 meetings today just on those topics in the state. Okay, we're going to move on to question number 3. Maryland and many other states are implementing strategies to strengthen the educator pipeline and diversify the workforce, including Grow Your Own programs and other initiatives. How do you think we should be supporting and encouraging students to enter the educator workforce? What other strategies should we consider to recruit more teachers of color in Maryland? Minnie, we're going to start with you on this question.
Okay, so my experience might be a little different just because I currently go to the University of Delaware. I've grown up in Delaware. But however, I'm currently student teaching in Cecil County, Maryland. And something that was like a big struggle for me, honestly, was just like finances. I believe that students of color are just often plagued by like their social economic status. And the process of actually becoming a teacher is often like really expensive. I heard a bunch of people talking about the TAM program. That's something I wish I could have did. However, like during student teaching, at least for my college at the University of Delaware, we're expected not to work and we were told explicitly not to work. And I believe like in order to recruit more teachers of color, just because of that socioeconomic status that is often plagued minorities, some sort of program or initiative. I know you do have the TAM program, but if there is just something, some way to get teachers. Yeah, I also never heard of the TAM program before today. So it was something that I've just learned about today. Going forward, something else that is also really important to me, teaching in Cecil County, I English 9th grade, as well as English 12th grade. In the 9th grade, I think specifically with the 9th grade curriculum, I think there needs to be a lot more of positive representations of students of color within the curriculum. I know for English, the last 3 books that they read, I've only been full-time teaching for the spring semester, but they read Just Mercy, which is talks about like court cases, injustices within the United States court system. Then they read, right after that, they read Romeo and Juliet, which is where two lovers, they die in the end, they commit suicide. And then right after that, they read it To Kill a Mockingbird, where a Black man is basically put on trial for a crime he did not commit. And in the end, he's killed. And it's just like, they read 5 books throughout the whole year. And those last 3, I'm not sure what the first 2 are, but those last 3, they're all sort of negative representations of the children in the schools. And I really think it's important that not only minorities, but just showing positive, inspirational messages through our curriculum. You know, a lot of these students, they asked me, they're like, hey, like, why don't we ever read anything happy? Like, why do you always read sad stuff? And I'm just like, honestly, like, I don't have an answer for you. You know, as a multiracial educator, I want to be able to also highlight more than just Black and white issues within contemporary text. But then also, even going further into the process of recruiting students of color, I think that we need to start with our current educators. You know, like, how are we treating our current students of color? How do we think that those students would describe their experience within school? You know, today I was talking to one of my 9th graders and he was using a little bit of profanity. So I was having a talk with him, like trying to communicate my expectation that, like, you know, I don't think this is appropriate behavior for the classroom. And he said to me, why aren't I allowed to curse when 5 out of 8 of my teachers curse at me every day? And I was just, I was kind of frozen for a second because I didn't know how to respond to that. And it really kind of hurt. Like, these are people that are supposed to be helping, showing us the way. And it's just like, what would these minority students say about their experience within schools, you know? And then I also think not just students of color need to be recruited. I think it's important that we highlight all minorities, not just students of color. Like, how can we get more teachers in the building with different religions? How can we get more teachers in the building, you know, with disabilities? There's so many gaps that I feel like are in education that we need to attempt to close. Yeah.
Thank you, Minnie, for speaking your truth and providing lots of ideas. I'm going to move to Beth for this. And I'm just going to ask everybody if we, as we hit these next two questions, if we could just abbreviate a little bit, but still give us the great ideas.
Don't worry, I'll be quick.
It's been a great conversation, though. So don't cut anything out, Beth.
Gotcha. So I am a product of the Grow Your Own train of thought there. In the school that I work in, I am only one of 2 classroom teachers of color. There has been another paraprofessional who has recently become a teacher. She is an interventionist, but it's been that way for years. I've been at the same school for the past 20 years. It's been that way for years. I think our high schools are a little more diverse, and I'm hopeful that more partnerships will be created, especially with our local HBCU. Dr. Richard Warren, who was a Maryland State Teacher of the Year, no longer works for the county. However, he is at our local HBCU, and he has an amazing mentorship program that he is creating just to recruit Black male teachers and other minorities also, but his focus is on Black male teachers. I feel that it is very important that we cultivate those relationships where at those HBCUs and where those students of color are, not just at job fairs or career fairs, but cultivate those relationships all year long to those students know that they are welcome in our local school districts. I think that's it. I think I said everything out, the main points I wanted to say.
I know Dr. Warren is doing his happy dance since you gave him a shout out. He works with us on our Educators of Color task force and in our aspiring early educator task force. Is an amazing person.
We're proud of him here on the Eastern Shore.
Absolutely. Doing great work. Andre.
I'm actually happy to say that I am actually a member of Dr. Warren's organization, working with educators of color. But to answer your question, I really want to start at the beginning of education and where education kind of starts, and kind of starts in elementary school and then along you get to middle school, and then you get to high school, and then eventually you get to college. But throughout those 3 years of elementary, middle, and high school, especially children and students of color go through some of the most traumatic times of their whole entire life. I know personally, I went to James and Bennett High School, where it's very diverse, but on the other hand, it can be very hectic at the same time. I was called many racial slurs during my time at James and Bennett. It also made me feel like I wasn't welcome at every single high school in our county. But it wasn't just me. It's been other students that look like me, other boys and girls that have been profiled and that have been kind of attacked and have been under these traumatic situations. And then we wonder why children of color don't want to go back and teach. And I think the simple answer to it is because we don't want to go back to a situation to where we receive the most trauma. But then I also believe that there's 2 ways that you can deal with trauma. I think you can deal with trauma in a negative way, and then you can also deal with trauma in a very positive way. Fortunately, I chose the positive way, and that was to understand that I'm just different, and I never looked at it as maybe I should quit or maybe I should stop doing this because they want me to. I looked at it as an opportunity to prove them wrong, and an opportunity to really engage with other students that look like me, to tell them that you're going to go through this, but it's about how you respond, and it's about how you get back and how you continue just to maintain your level of success. But to wrap up my question or my answer, I think we have to just support the students in the best way that we can and allow them to understand that we got to just keep pushing, especially students of color, because it doesn't get any easier. As you get out of high school and as you go out and go throughout your process in college, that it just doesn't get any easier being a student of color and being a teacher of color. But I think we have to just continue to push and continue to tell these children that they are someone and that they are something.
Thank you, Andre. So I'm going to start calling on folks pretty quickly. If you could get your answer to a minute, that would be awesome. I know that's hard for us as educators too. Nava?
I agree with everything that everybody has said so far. I think one of the main things as trying to encourage students of color to become educators and keeping minority educators is all about them being welcomed and feeling welcomed. As an undergrad, I didn't have a traditional school setting, so I can't speak on what happens in K through 12. But as an undergrad, my only 2 years, I've only had about one Black educator, and I've been one of the only Black people in my teacher ed programs. So it does get lonely, and then it does start to feel as if you're not even welcomed in these spaces, or we don't need you in these spaces. So I think that it's important that as educators, we're all encouraging and we're making it known that these people are needed and that they should always, like Andre was saying, it doesn't get easier because as Beth brought up, when you do complete your teacher programs and then you're going into these work fields, you may be one of only 2 Black teachers or minority teachers in the entire school, in the school. So I think that it's important that we should always uplift each other and always know you are needed and that you are making a difference in somebody's life, in a child's life, whether you realize it or not. I was trying to be fast.
Thanks, Nava, and I'm sorry to rush folks. We're going to go to the 4th question. We're going to put it in the chat and I'm going to go through some, but if you feel that you want to give an answer, please put it in the chat and we may come back to your answer that you put in there. So it's how can school systems better support early career teachers so that they stay beyond the first 5 years? Jacob, I'm going to come over to you.
Hello. There's a lot of obvious stuff I won't say because it's obvious, but the big thing for me is success. Teachers need to experience success early and often. And I say that, looking at our county or our state's MCAP scores where, less than 50% of kids are able to pass their reading MCAP at the end of the year at the elementary level. That's a lot when you're in a class of 30 kids and I'm facing 15 who are going to fail their test. That's a lot to deal with emotionally on top of all those obvious things. So we need to train teachers to be successful and we need to equip them with curriculums. All over the state of Maryland, we still use curriculums that go against the science of how children learn how to read. And what's that to do to a first-year teacher who doesn't know any better? The curriculum doesn't work and they think I don't work. I'm not successful. And so on top of the low pay and the overwork, I'm not doing a difference. So why am I going to stay? And I think if teachers experience success early and often, that success can help lift us up out of those hardships. So I really encourage us to equip all districts with proper training and curriculum so that teachers can be successful in implementing instruction that moves children and makes that difference in their lives they need.
Thank you, Jacob. How about Andrew?
Jacob, I totally agree. So another thing I'd like to add, I think one of the most important resources is time. Last year, something that I really enjoyed, even though we were virtual, were Wednesdays. We had asynchronous days where we were able to just catch up on everything. As a new teacher, that had a huge impact for me. I'm learning how to create lesson plans from scratch, standards, objectives, and on top of that, classroom management skills and how to be an effective and quality teacher. So time is a very important resource. Having a mentor in the building is an invaluable resource. And those are probably my top two things for helping teachers avoid burnout and stick with it for the first 5 years.
Thank you. Brittany.
Okay, so I would definitely agree with everything they just said. My other big thing would be just support. This year I've had an amazing mentor teacher. I know we've talked about that a lot tonight, but I have my mentor teacher. She's right next door in the room next to mine. And it's great just being able to walk over if I have like some stupid question that like something popped up and I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. I can go and ask her, or if like I'm having an issue with a student, I can pop over and ask if she has any advice. It's just really nice to have that support when you're overwhelmed and you don't know what you're supposed to do. You really need somebody to talk to. So I think that's my biggest thing, is just having that extra support.
Thank you, Brittany. Desmond, anything you want to add to what you put in the chat for this question?
I would just say support. I mean, it's the support is so important. It doesn't matter if it's your first year or like you're about to retire a year. Like, support is very critical. 360 support, but more specifically from the administration.
Absolutely. Melissa, you're finishing up your 5 years. How are we keeping you?
I'm actually finishing up 9 years. So
oh
you
my
packed
goodness,
me.
that time flies.
First 3 years were actually really rough because we had 3 different principals in my first 3 years. And by year 2, I was co-team leading the 5th grade team because we had 3 different teams in the first 3 years too. So mentorship, like everyone has said, is absolutely key. We just finished 3 years of absolute insanity. Well, almost 3 years, we're almost at the end. And we need the experience down the hall, which I think everyone has reiterated a lot. And one of the ways we can make sure that that is happening is fixing COMAR and making sure that these mentor programs are not just vague and ineffective. Because I know there's teachers, brand new teachers, first year teachers in my school that are not seeing mentors because it is not specifically stated. So we need to make sure that they're getting that. The other thing real quick, while I have 30 seconds, TAM programs. For the TAM programs, I know Jacob was talking earlier about the number of participants and getting more people interested and engaged in it. One of the things that was thrown out when I was in a conversation with colleagues just yesterday was about adding weight to those high school courses, because a lot of the high school students want that valedictorian or top 10 seat, and they're not going into TAM because they want to get those honors and AP credits instead. So just something to kind of consider to entice our students to be able to get into those programs as well.
Thank you for that idea. Sarah Speicher.
So the same here. I agree with what everybody else said. Mentors are huge. In Garrett County, we have what are called SDI coaches for special education. And my SDI coach has been an invaluable resource. So she's kind of dual purpose. She's administration. So she looks over my IEPs, my paperwork, all of those fun things. But she also, if I need like 800 things laminated, which happens constantly in special ed, she's going to laminate that for me, cut it out and Velcro it for me. She's going to be there anytime that I need advice for me, for something for me personally, paperwork wise, or if I have a student who's displaying a behavior that I haven't been exposed to yet, she's going to give me advice on that. Beyond that, I think that we talk about trainings, but I think the trainings need to be more hands-on that we go to. So while we can talk until we're blue in the face on these hot button topics, I want to watch somebody do that. And I know that's not always comfortable for presenters to do, because I don't like to teach my peers or do like a mock lesson in front of my peers. That always embarrasses me. But I think that that's more valuable than just listening to them talk about something. If we can see how they're putting these things into practice, especially for me, working in a population that has a 1% racial diversity, I need to know how to model these lessons when I don't have a person to rely on to be that representation for that community or that population. What book should I use? How should I talk about these topics and draw attention to that, because it needs to be talked about?
Thank you. Shanice, any ideas?
As far as to stop retention, correct? Or so on this topic, I did mention in the chat how I'm in a TIRA program. In Montgomery County, we have a TIRA program for new teachers to avoid retention. And I have a substitute that comes in on Wednesdays. So it's kind of like the virtual Wednesdays. And she takes over my class in the morning, and I can go do like that laminating, or I can do my grading. It's amazing. And once a month, we get to do professional development. And it's either they're talking about how to be culturally responsive, or we're talking about behavior management. Recently, we actually just went to the African American Museum in DC. So that was like amazing. Like this. And at the end, also, I'm sorry, I forgot. At the end, they're going to give us money. I'm sorry, I'm excited because they're going to give us money to buy like materials for our classroom. And that's so helpful. So like if we could do that for all counties, I'm sure that would be appreciated.
Money and time, really? Great ideas that all teachers want. Okay, Andre, I'm gonna let you have the last word on this one.
I'm gonna keep it very, very quick, but I agree with what everyone is saying. Just support and continuing to support us throughout our 5 years our first 5 years of teaching. I think that having a great support system gives early teachers a great opportunity to touch kids in the best way possible. So just like I said, I think that a great support system for all either first year educators or very young educators is definitely needed.
Thank you, Andre. Before I turn it over to Superintendent Choudhury, I just want to say thank you to all of you. We're very blessed and honored to have you in our classrooms with our students. Anna, congratulations again on graduation. So we're going to be looking forward to you being in our classrooms and being that teacher advocate. And Shanice, again, I'll give my job away to you in 2 years. But thank you all, and please stick with the profession. We need you, we want you, and we appreciate you. Superintendent Choudhury.
Yeah, so lots of policy ideas, new policies, new problems, to echo the notorious B.I.G. song. But at the end of the day, lots of things coming out of COVID, right? If there's one silver lining is like it uncovered cracks that have always existed. It uncovered, just how much teachers do and how much, it's a fabric of so many things, right, of our economy. So, heard a lot today on the mentor teacher front. What are the best qualities, Melissa? Type them up and shoot away, because that is being shaped right now. And so those discussions are, so what defines a quality mentor? I always have this tension, Cheryl hears me say this, I don't want 24 flavors of it, because then that's where you get to, different versions of it. Teachers of color, we had a teacher diversity roundtable. Rachel was there. Very true and real, the invisible tax on teachers of color when you are the few or one or handful in your campus and everything else that you have to take on in addition to being a teacher. And so that's a problem and a challenge. But then there's this kind of tension, we need even one or two to start. But again, it is not there's a lot in terms of carrying in the weight. I urge you to look at that roundtable. In terms of, other policy decisions, I heard a teacher preparation. Jacob, I heard you loud and clear. Know that in the Maryland Leads, every single district applied for the science of reading strategy, and we will not be approving anything that is not aligned. So even if your district is using something that is not aligned and tries to make that work, it's not going to work. And so, but every district committed to it. Every district, it's a multi-year journey, right? And it impacts both new teachers and veteran teachers. It also requires time. We're also coming out of COVID, so it's a multi-year journey to get people there. But I was excited to see, that commitment. And so the last piece I would share, and we'll just close this out, is, we need to exponentially increase the number of people who want to be teachers in our state. 50% of our teachers are exported. This needs to be an on-demand field. Less and less people are going into the education major. COVID has really rocked people's sense of what I want to do. And then let's not act like media helps, and tagging all kinds of negative ills on teachers when they are more reflections of failed policies of society. And so, these are things that I want you to know from the state perspective that I will fight vehemently against. But at the same time, I also want you to know there's a tension of policy, right? You gotta land on that best idea and hope that's the best idea while it didn't satisfy everyone, right? So as you guys think of ideas and such, please shoot your thoughts to us. I do have a crazy inbox, but everything gets read, I assure you that. And so with that, Cheryl, I will stop.
Thank you. And yes, definitely send in your ideas. I think you heard it several times tonight. These are policies that we're talking about right now. And as we roll out the blueprint, we're going to be taking on more of these. It was a focal point of the blueprint on how we can attract and retain more educators and educators of color. So your ideas are pertinent to the implementation. Rachel, anything that you want to add that you captured tonight?
I captured pages and pages of notes tonight of really important and specific things, some policy related, others culture related. How do you recruit teachers of color when their entire school experience has been negative? What impetus do they have to want to be part of that negative environment? The barrier of cost in teaching. And the barrier of cost when you're trying to student teach or be an intern when you have to be there all day and can't be at work. Some of these barriers, the importance of mentors and how we need to make policy that creates strong mentoring programs across the state. And mentoring has a lot of challenges. And when it's not even in building, I had a short little conversation with Andrew in the chat. I've been a mentor, but I was mentoring a music teacher in another school halfway across the county. So how can that even be an effective experience? But I'm the only music teacher in the school. She's the only music teacher in the school. So it's hard to create those relationships in some of these, in some of the content areas, and expanding the TAM program and getting the word out that the TAM program can be a powerful, powerful tool for creating homegrown teachers here in Maryland. But at the same time, the TAM classes aren't weighted highly enough, so it's not attractive to students who are trying to get into college and maybe score some scholarship money by having high GPAs. And that's very heavily affected by weighting. So there's a lot to think about. And I am so thrilled with your authentic, powerful truth that you brought to the conversation today. Thank you so much. Please stay in the state of Maryland as teachers here. We need you, our kids need you, and you're making a huge difference. And keep up the advocacy. We need to use our voices. Thanks so much for having me here.
Our pages and pages of notes are pages of conversations with me and her coming up. So just
Great. And Rachel put her email in the chat as well. So lots of people to get in touch with. Superintendent Choudhury, it's my pleasure to have facilitated and conducted this with you this evening. Thank you for listening to our educators. And for everyone, it's Teacher Appreciation Week. We appreciate you and we continue to want to hear from you. So thank you and have a great night. And tomorrow's Friday. Yay. Good night, everyone.